Hey, this is Pastor Curry, pastor of the Zion Fair Baptist Church, Wilmington's most exciting church, the church that love ya and anything you could do about it. Today with Coffee with Curry, we are continuing on with our Awareness Month, and we wanted to this month because this is the American Red Cross Awareness Month, and we wanted to make sure that we open up this month with sharing good, relevant information from the American Red Cross, and what better person to have but to have the executive director, who will be with us today on the Coffee with Curry show. And not only is she the executive director for the Wilmington area, but for the Delmarva Peninsula. I always get that wrong, but that's where she is from. And I'm excited about her being with us today. And I'm looking forward to a nice conversation so that we can see how we can engage to continue to help and bring life to those who are less fortunate than we are. Listen, real fast, call somebody, tell them Coffee with Curry is on, and let's get after it.
Good morning, Delaware and surrounding areas. You are now tuned in to this week's Coffee with Curry. Join us every Sunday at 11 a.m. with new guests every week. So grab your cup of coffee and join us on Coffee with Curry.
And we're back. As promised, we have with us Miss Theresa Young, who is the executive director for the Red Cross in the Delmarva area. And today I'm just excited. We have not had a chance. It's been COVID. It's been staying away from everyone. Everyone is doing, we're doing Zoom. Now in living color, we can have you here to talk about all the wonderful things that the Red Cross is doing. But before we get started with that, I really want to start by just getting to know Miss Young a little bit, because it's people, they want to know how are you and what's going on and how did you get to where you are. So let's talk a little bit about you, a little bit about your family life.
Oh, well, first, thank you for having me on. You're absolutely right. I miss this.
Yeah.
I really miss talking to people in 3 dimension. So thank you. Um, about me. That's always the hardest thing to talk about, I think. I am, as you mentioned, the executive director, but that's not who I am.
Right.
Who I am first is always a mom. I
Oh,
have 3 children.
wow.
I am newly married. So actually, we have 5 children together now,
Okay.
and all of them are young adults. So it's a change of life.
Yeah.
My youngest is in college. He's at University of Delaware.
Excellent.
I also coach high school volleyball.
My daughter is a lover. She's now playing volleyball, not the high school level yet. But that's excellent.
Oh, I'm excited. She's starting
Yeah.
already.
Yes, she's in the sixth grade, and she's on the team, and she's even in Premier's program right now.
I coached with Premier.
Did you?
I did.
All right.
I usually had the younger ones. Most of my joy, I enjoyed Premier greatly. Most of my joy is the high school. I teach or I coach at Newark High School. So
Okay.
it's getting the high schoolers that have never seen a volleyball,
Yeah.
and here they are starting out. And this year, we have the first, not the first, we started a boys team a
Excellent.
couple years back. And this year is the first, like, it's becoming sanctioned in the state of Delaware. So that's exciting as well.
Yes.
I love the sport because you get to teach new things to people who've never tried it, and it's a
Right.
lifelong exercise routine.
Yeah.
I can also tell you that I started the nonprofit world, I guess it's now been 20 some years ago.
Okay.
I used to be in the for-profit world, and circumstances guide you in directions. Our Lord guides us in directions.
Yes, he does.
And I ended up at American Cancer Society for about 14 years doing amazing work there. And somewhere along the line, I thought I'd like to see what else I belong doing. And I applied with American Red Cross. And the very first deployment, where I went to North Carolina for flooding, I, as a child, I always wanted to do mission work, and we just weren't in a position to do it. And it just felt like, okay, this is it. This is my calling. So for 6 years, I've been with the American Red Cross, and I absolutely love every second of it.
Mm. Well, it's very evident that you love it because for 6 years and already you the executive. Did you come in as the executive director?
I did.
Oh, so you came in with a strong resume of service to humanity.
I did,
Yeah.
and I'd already served the Delmarva Peninsula. I now serve in like interim roles. I recently did an interim regional chief executive officer with Missouri, Arkansas. So
Mm.
I go out to help as well as working locally.
Okay. What has been one of your absolute joys with your children? I like to, before we get into all the integral parts of the Red Cross, like give me one of those joy moments with the, and I did hear you say you now have five, but you had originally had three, and we'll get to the blended family part in a second. But
Okay.
let's talk, what is one of those moments that you probably will always cherish? There's many of them.
So there's two that are just screaming at me right now. The first is when they were really young, when I first became a single parent, really so very young.
Mhm.
But I remember watching Whose Line Is It Anyway?
Mhm.
Um, and we were all in my bed, and the youngest was so tiny. He was only a year and a half, so he was on my belly.
Mhm.
And then I had the other two, one in each arm, and we would just watch and enjoy. It was, one of those channels that was a safe channel to watch
Mhm.
at the
Right.
time.
Uh,
So it was really just hanging together, laughing together, and all together. The second, because I just is young adults. We just recently went to a week in the Poconos. It's reasonable to get out there, and we have been all locked in for so long. So we spent a week in the Poconos without doing anything but playing board games and card games and
Excellent.
just bonding as a family
Yes.
in with nowhere that worries about electricity or well, we had electricity, but
Right.
not the electronics.
Hmm. Hmm.
So those were two.
Wow. Well, in this society, young people not having electronics and yet communicating with their parents, you just have an awesome family,
Oh,
obviously.
I feel so, but I'm a little biased.
Yeah. And your youngest your son, you said, is at the University of Delaware now.
Yes.
Now, did the other two go on to college as well?
They did. My oldest went on to college, started teaching at PS DuPont,
Oh,
and
excellent.
then, I'm sorry, AI DuPont
Okay.
at seventh grade. And now she is the education manager at the Delaware Museum of Science and Nature.
Amen.
And then my second did start at college, but ended up with a not a chronic pain disease, fibromyalgia, and so he's finding a new course, and he is very happily working at my eye doctor. And
Okay.
very happy for him because he was diagnosed at 19,
Yeah.
and so here he is now 25. And I probably shouldn't have said that, but
Oh,
he shares. But he has. We all go through trials and tribulations, and
excellent.
he's found a path. And then
Excellent.
the youngest is 19 and mechanical engineering at University of Delaware. So
Well,
they're all different paths.
and what a beautiful opportunity to share. You never know who lives you're touching. And when I bring people onto the show, I often ask them, let's talk about you, because there are people who mirror you.
Mhm.
And you may not, think that there's a single parent out there who have three children, but the mere fact that your three children are doing well, found their own paths, is very encouraging to some person who's watching us today. So beyond just talking about the Red Cross, you were able to even save your own family, and I think that's very honorable and remarkable. Then the Lord directed you to another path, and you added to the family.
Yes.
A wonderful husband, I'm sure,
Yes.
and some more children. Can we have a little bit about them?
Well, sure. And you're moving me, so I'm just
Uh,
to let you know. Um, so funny enough, is faith
yeah.
is what brought the two of us together, and we both share the same faith. I had not had that before. So he's an amazing man. I got so lucky, an upgrade, I call it. And I love my first husband. I still love my first husband.
Mhm.
You don't let go of love.
Mhm. That's right.
But the second one for me is just, it's a different path in
Okay.
that is the first time I'm not fearful of the future.
Mm.
Whereas as a single parent, you really are all of the time. As a parent, you seem to be all of the time, but he's helped me not be fearful of the future. His children are amazing. They are the same age as my oldest
Oh,
two.
wow.
One of them is also still at home with us, and he's found his path, and He's working in information technology, and the other one, the oldest one, is with the Coast Guard.
Oh, wow.
So we're a family full of service industry, it appears.
Yes, yes, yes.
So it's wonderful. They're the same. We raised our children both with sarcasm, and so we blend together very well. And we also all enjoy playing board. We do a lot of board games, so we
That's
enjoy
good.
that.
And that holds the family together too, because we're so technical right now, and in this technology era where you could be sitting next to the child and you have to text them and give them a directive or whatever. But it's good to hear that. And that's one of the reasons why I'm saying again to those of you who are watching us that before we get into the technicalities of whatever we're going to talk about, I love to just feel the person. And now I got that connection, and you've helped our community to also see that you can survive wherever
Oh
life
yeah.
lands you. You can survive and end up producing exceptionally well. We're grateful for that. So let's talk a little bit about, and if we have a few minutes left in this segment, a little bit about the Red Cross and what drew you to it before we start getting into all the details of what you do now and what it is doing.
Well, thank you for asking such an intuitive question. I was very happy at American Cancer Society,
Mm,
very happy, but something told me it was time
mm,
to look. And when I looked, literally the day I looked, up came Red Cross, and their core values absolutely match my core values.
okay.
Neutrality, um, I'm going to get it all wrong now, but the kindness and care that
Mhm.
that you give, the humanitarian side of it, and the ethics, all of that matched the core value. I'm not saying American Cancer Society did not;
I
they did
understand.
as well. But these core values really spoke to me because I also volunteer with Scouts of America,
Mhm.
similar core values. So there was that. Then there was the interview process. When I went to interview, my mind wasn't take the job or sell the job. It was let me understand. And there was a lot of negative public relations going on at the time. And I did a lot of research to find out, we really can't trust that what we see to be the largest voice is real.
Mm,
You really have to do your research and
yes.
understand the truth. And when you get the truth, it speaks volumes. And so I saw an area that I could make a difference with the core values that match mine. And I believe strongly in not prostituting your ethics.
Great.
And if you do that and you really work from your heart in the direction your journey takes you, then you will find satisfaction in the work you do. And it worked.
Yeah, and I know you're doing so well, but I just want to back up to what you just said because just in case there's a grandmother or a young person that's listening to us, I don't want them to miss something you just said. No, 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 you did it well, but I grabbed it, and I want to make sure somebody else does. Where your journey take you, it's going to be important that you follow, even if the money is not the main the big thing. You didn't say exactly those words, but that's what you were sharing with us. I think the purpose for I even asking you what led you to the Red Cross, it wasn't because it was going to pay you $1 million more.
Yeah.
It wasn't because it had such fame. It had trouble, but you then took on because you thought you could make a difference, and it gave you joy.
Yes.
That's I'm sorry, I'm a preacher, so quite natural. I'm gonna always find the preachable moment. But I think that is so critical for the young people today and the people today because we have an issue with the workforce. We can't find people to work,
Right.
let alone volunteer. But when you can find something that will give you gratification beyond yourself, I think that's the key to our happiness. And that's why when you said it, I had to say, let me just stop it for a second and allow you to continue on afterwards because I wanted someone to hear that. So I'm sorry, I didn't mean to jump in, but I
Oh,
thought that was just
thank you.
awesome.
Thank you for that.
Yes.
And for a story is, if I may,
Sure.
is I deployed to Kentucky, not this Christmas, but the last Christmas. I don't know if everyone recalls, but there was an entire town in Kentucky, Mayfield, that was completely wiped out.
Mhm.
So imagine looking at this city and seeing no government buildings, no libraries, no businesses. You lost your work, you lost your home, you lost your community, you lost people in the community. And there was a call out because it happened 2 weeks before Christmas is who can go at Christmas. And that was a family decision. And almost every deployment is a family decision. So not only did it work or help me in my choice, but it helped the family understand their value in supporting family
Mhm.
so that we can help others.
Mm.
And I think that's often missed. Like, your wife has to be commended for giving you this time.
Yeah.
Your child has to be commended for giving you this time. And it's important we thank our family that lifts us up and our friends that lift us up to be able to do good work.
Yeah.
We never do anything alone.
Yes, that's so great. So now you're at Red Cross, and you've unearthed in the last 6 years, I would imagine, the many wonderful things that it does. Just share maybe a few. Matter of fact, I'll tell you what we're gonna do. Let's take a commercial break, and then once we take the commercial break, we're gonna come back and let's just share a little bit about some of the things that the Red Cross does for the community, and then let's make it more localized and share some of the things that's going on here in our community. Is that all right with you?
Absolutely.
We'll be right back. And we're back. Great conversation so far, and I'm just enjoying Miss Young as she shared her personal life with us and her interest in and some of the things that she's doing and have done that has led her to the place she is today. So we were beginning our conversation on the Red Cross. Generally, just share a little bit about what they do.
Well, it's a wonderful question, and the amount of services we provide are pretty wide. So I'll try and keep it succinct and generalized, conceptual maybe. So most people know us for disaster
Yeah.
response because that hits the TV, and for blood donations because we have commercials. Those are the two things most people know us for, or they know us because they were in the middle of it. If you've experienced a disaster, you'll know Red Cross. So we do help with disaster response. Most of it is usually home fires, though you see on TV the mega disasters. We also have blood drives or blood donations. The American Red Cross provides 40% of the nation's blood supply.
Mm.
So while here we're a secondary component, nationwide we are the primary source of blood. All of the other blood banks combined do the 60%, we do 40%. That's an important thing to know. One of the topics that is key right now is sickle cell anemia.
Yeah.
We can talk about that. The other services, and so in a disaster, we'll talk about that. In a disaster, we help with the key needs that are necessary. So there are first responders. We look at ourselves as a first receiver. That's the group that might be the shelter that holds the evacuation, or that we might provide lodging, food, and warm place to stay. Also comfort.
Mhm.
So being able to talk to someone in those moments helps you express your current concern, your immediate concern of expressing your needs, so that you can then move towards recovery.
Okay.
Now, we cover a small portion of that. And so if you think about we're all a piece of a puzzle, Red Cross might, if you have a house fire, might find you a place to stay for a couple of nights, some food, and again, that comfort, but then the community comes and steps in, or your insurance, or whatever it is that is the piece of that. So I didn't exactly explain that well.
Yes, you did.
Okay.
You did very well with it. Yes.
Thank you. You are kind. Another area we have is service to armed forces. And so that helps our current military personnel, our veterans, and the families.
Okay.
In the current, we are the only entity in the United States that is allowed to verify emergency communication to our troops. So in the case recently, I'll use my own example, so I'm not hurting, is we recently lost my mom. I have a brother who serves in the military, and to get him home, I needed to call the Hero Care Network, which is Red Cross, to validate the need to bring my brother home. And Red Cross then confirms with the commanding officers that there is a need. And if that person is not in mission critical at the time, they get to come home.
Okay.
If the military can't get them home, then Red Cross will be able to help support that. But they need the permission first, and we're the communicators. But we also reunify families. So in the case of Turkey, if we have people who come over here and are looking for the rest of their family, we will help
Okay.
reunify that family as a nationwide and global entity. Red Cross is part of IFRC, the International Federation of Red Cross. And so that is family reunification. Many people don't think about or talk about, but even after a big flooding or the fires that happened in California, if you're looking to connect with family, we help with that. We also help with emergency needs. Not during COVID, a lot of our military personnel got stuck in the country they were in.
Right.
Even if they were scheduled to be home the next day, they couldn't come. And so now they have family who were expecting to be dual parent households again, and they're still single parent households. And at the same time, we had someone that the only thing they could think about is our air conditioner is broken and I cannot help my wife. And it was so stuck on them that they weren't able to as efficiently perform their duties, and they reached out. And through the work of joining forces in Delaware, that's our National Guard, and through Red Cross, we were able to secure an air conditioner.
Oh,
Now, it may sound small,
no, no.
but those things are what weigh on you.
Yes.
And then we have training services, and you recently saw one of our football players get injured.
Yeah.
Their trainers are trained in Red Cross, CPR, and first aid, and they provided CPR, and life was saved, thank goodness. We train in first aid and CPR.
Mhm.
We have a citizens only CPR or hands only CPR, which is free, but not a certification. And then we also have the certification modules. So if you are a healthcare provider or you're about to be a nurse, or like me as a coach, we have to be CPR first aid trained to be ready to help people. And we do that as well. Aquatics, those are our lifeguards, um, babysitting classes, all kinds of aspects that you can join with Red Cross for training services. So those are the very broad scope
Mhm.
of the things that we do.
Yeah. Now we were talking about the CPR because I know one of the things that we have to have because we have a child care facility here as well is that we have to be CPR certified. So if a organization such as ours or others desire to, I know there's a fee, I'm sure, to that,
Yes.
desire to have the whole center certified, how would that happen?
You can call the American Red Cross or call me. I'm your point of contact.
Okay.
And we can arrange it depending on the number of people. If you have an appropriate number of people, I think it's 10 to 12, we can come to
Okay.
you.
That's where we are.
And then if you have more, we actually can look at coming up with a version of agreement that might be able to defray some of your costs.
Mhm.
We just need to see what that looks like. The fees are so that you're getting an official certified
Right.
Red Cross, and that's required for many jobs.
Yes, yes. Nowadays it really is. But I know for the licensing and inspection for our center and for centers that are licensed, they have to have the CPR training, a certified CPR training. And I said that over the air so that people will know. And we're going to give your information, not so much yours directly because I know you're the executive director, and we don't want you to get a million calls. But I think it's important that those who are watching us who need this type of certification or want to bring you all in, they'll have that access. Matter of fact, if we can just take a moment and you can share, do you have the number to your main office?
I do. What I would suggest is if you're looking to be certified, just go on redcross.org/training services.
Mm.
That's the easiest if you have the access, because then you can find your own class. If it's for a group or an entity, I would call 1-800-RED Cross. You'll get connected to me.
Okay.
And just look for local staff. You'll get connected to me. We're also on the website, redcross.org/Delaware or /Delmarva. We try to cover all bases.
Yeah. And you said that so fast that I can't remember. So give me the phone number again.
1-800-RED Cross.
Great. 1-800 Red Cross. Now give me you told us we can go to the website and if we want an individual wants to get certified, give me that address again.
I'm going to make it real easy. That's redcross.org.
Okay.
And then just look for the title bars across the top and choose training.
Training. Okay, great.
Or volunteer.
Yeah, we're going to go there because that's what we really need. All the wonderful things that you all are doing and the lives that you all are impacting. It's important that we get some more help. And again, there's a famous quote that I use that Dr. King you said. He said, "Every man cannot be famous because every man cannot be well known." but every man can be great because every man can serve.
Oh,
And I've learned in my life what brings the fulfillment, it comes beyond the paycheck,
yes.
being able to serve humanity, because I always this is how I think, and it could be a little skewed or whatever. I always think that it's them today, but it could be me tomorrow. And sometimes when we're doing this volunteer, I believe that it causes us to be able to have something in the credit line saying, okay, you did this, this, and this. So now that you're in need, we're going to take care of you. That's how I tend to look at life. So we had an opportunity to really to talk about in general, and it's a whole lot, a
It
whole lot, a
it
whole lot.
is a lot. And it's hard to kind of elevator speech that,
Yeah.
but as you dig into the details, or if there's a need, you reach out. We have a program with our emergency responders. It's when in doubt,
Hmm.
call us out kind of
Oh,
thing. So when in doubt, call us out. If
yeah.
we cannot provide it, one of my roles is to connect the community with Red Cross
Mhm.
or Red Cross with the community. And so if there is a need, if we don't provide it, I will find out who does.
Yeah. So that's how we started off by talking about if you have a need. She shared the many different programs and things that the Red Cross provide. We're going to shift a little bit and we're going to talk about how we can help you supply the need to someone else. So let's talk a little bit about your volunteerism program and how that works and how people can be engaged.
So think of a huge pizza.
Okay.
And if you tried to consume that pizza all by yourself, you might enjoy it for a minute, but
Uh,
eventually you wouldn't want pizza for a while.
yeah.
So we try to encourage everybody to take a small slice. You love the taste and you'll want more. So that's the way we'll start, is our pizza has so many
Yeah.
slices. Some of the some of the easiest ways to get involved, so we'll start with easy, because we find that once people join Red Cross, it becomes a passion.
Mhm.
And we want to balance that passion with burnout and make sure that we're managing ourselves to make sure we have that balance in our lives. Some of the things we have is I have a wonderful community volunteer leader, Vic Parker, and she started in sheltering, and that means during a disaster, she would support a shelter, and that shelter might be a beautiful place like your hall.
Mhm.
And we open shelters. People may not come to them. It's about having the opportunity to come, but they may find family members. So she started there. Now Vic runs mega shelters.
Mm.
So those are the football stadium shelters, thousands of people in one location, and she manages the entire thing. So now she's a business manager.
Wow.
She leads
Okay.
multiple people. There are ways to get involved at small scale. The disaster action team is someone who joins a team that if there's a fire in the middle of the night, you're willing to get up out of bed and go to that fire to be with that family who is standing on the street.
Mhm.
Be with them to help them through that moment and to give them the resources to find lodging for that night.
Mhm.
That's a very rewarding role. However, it's also exhausting if you're not prepared to get up at 3
Right.
in the morning, because fire doesn't choose their time wisely.
Amen.
Now, it could also be during the day, but you get to say, I'm available on Tuesdays and Thursdays between this hour and this hour, and we could probably work with you.
Mhm.
If there's a role, it exists. We have, you're getting a lot about me, but I have a special needs brother. I have an ID brother. And so he can work in a headquarter where we have a snack table to make sure that the people who are in command and control don't necessarily have to go out to get nutrients. They can come in, and it's got to be kept clean and safe and ready. And he can help us there. And then I'm there near him in case he needs that emotional support. So regardless of the skill set you think you have
Mm.
or the skill set you'd like to learn, we can work with you to find a role.
Mm.
And then one of the other areas I would be remiss to express is blood donations.
Yeah.
If you're able to donate, oh my goodness, one blood donation can save up to 3 lives.
Yes.
And a Black donor is in a better position to help our sickle cell patients
Yes.
than I am.
Yeah.
And so those are areas that if you can give your time, your talent, your treasure, or roll up your sleeve, any one of those makes a world of difference.
Yeah. We have partnered with the Blood Bank of Delaware, but didn't know when you had shared earlier that 40% of all the blood that is given, and I give blood because it's important to me and this congregation as well that we continue to be on the life-saving side, not just the soul, but also the body too. And it was shocking to me that you all do that much because we don't hear hardly of anything the Red Cross is getting blood, but obviously that is a part of what y'all do because when you're in a catastrophe, a lot of times you need that blood.
Yes.
You also talked about being like we are the shelter for if a calamity is to happen in this section of the city. Um, our new facility we have, the Holding Center, that gym is one, and I probably want to get connected to what was the name again? The person's in charge. You said it was in charge of this
Vic Parker.
Vic Parker, because we did communicate with the food bank, but we never really got anyone to help us to be able to make sure that we have someone on site. So maybe that would be the answer is the Red Cross to help if there become a calamity and you needed this. We have the space to be able to serve a community over in our Wholeness Center gym. And so that's something I'm thinking about. I'm gonna have to think and see how we can connect and join forces to help in the efforts that you all have, but also for the community that we're serving in, that y'all will be able to help if something was to happen to us.
That'd be a wonderful conversation, and thank you for the generosity of offering your space because it's not an easy understanding that when that space is offered up, it's offered up until the need is no longer,
Right.
which means you lose the opportunity sometimes to gain a little bit of dollars to keep
Mhm.
your church going. And it also puts you in the piece of that puzzle, piece of that solution. And whether that's with Willie Patrick, our emergency manager here in the city, or DEMA, which is our statewide emergency management, or the Red Cross partnership, whatever it comes to be that makes sense for your group, that makes we can all work together. And that is it. It's how do we support? Or if there was a code purple,
Mhm.
what does that look like? Code purple, for those who aren't familiar, is when the weather is so cold, we don't want our homeless population to be outside. They need to come inside for safety.
Mhm. And
So
warmth.
thank you for
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. Well, I'm gonna make sure we connect so that we can really continue this conversation because I think that that's gonna be critical. That I've learned you can't do everything on your own. You have to
No.
have the partners all over the place to be able to help bring about meaningful help and assistance to a community, whether it be Southbridge, whether it be Wilmington, whether it be anywhere in this country. And what you all do is just unbelievable. I hope that you get an opportunity to really figure out how you can be a part of the Red Cross. And when we come back from this break, we're really going to talk about just for a brief moment how you can sign up, how you can get more information. And we've already talked about some other things about how receive support. Now, how you can get it is what we're going to talk about. We'll be right back.
Disaster relief has been at the heart of our mission for over 140 years. Responding to 3 million disasters, we've helped millions of people across the country. In 1881, months after Clara Barton founded the American Red Cross, we launched our first response, donating money, clothes, and furniture to victims of devastating Michigan forest fires. From this, we then began delivering emergency shelter, food, and relief supplies during disasters. This led to our first major hurricane response in 1893. For nearly a year in South Carolina, we stood with survivors who lost everything, helping them rebuild their homes and livelihoods. Early efforts like these laid the groundwork for our future responses, many of which we still use today. In 1927, the Great Mississippi River flood covered over 16 million acres, an area bigger than West Virginia. It was our largest relief operation since World War I. By boat and train, we delivered tents, food, and hygiene items, and inoculated people against water-related diseases. In 1969, Hurricane Camille was the most damaging storm on record. The night it made landfall, tens of thousands of people relied on us for shelter, just as they do today for all types of natural disasters. When the Northridge earthquake ravaged Southern California in 1994, thousands of Red Cross volunteers delivered aid such as health and emotional support and served over 1.5 million meals. Then there was Katrina. At our peak response, we were serving 1 million meals a day. The 2005 hurricane became the biggest disaster to strike our country, and one we will never forget. Since then, severe weather has continued to batter communities, some again and again. In 2017, back-to-back hurricanes Harvey, Irma, and Maria became some of the worst in U.S. history. And record-breaking wildfires continue to rage year after year. Looking ahead, as disasters become more frequent and intense, and with disaster seasons lasting longer and longer, we're continuing to adapt, just as we have for the past 140 years. In light of climate change, we're committed to grow our response capacity and deliver our services more sustainably, so the American Red Cross can continue to help future generations in need. Join us. To learn more and how you can get involved, visit redcross.org today.
And we're back. Well, great conversation as I shared earlier, and Ms. Young has certainly shared with us and humanized really the American Red Cross. I used to only think the only time there was anything that the Red Cross did was when a major catastrophe happened, and there they come with their big cross, Red Cross on the trucks. But to understand that, the American Red Cross, it serves our local community. When there's a major fire, when there's any kind of catastrophes that occur, the first hands, the first warm hands to try to assist and aid and bring comfort and compassion, 9 times out of 10 is the American Red Cross, a representative from that. And a lot of times it's volunteers. So even though you've shared a lot of what you all can what we can receive from you, I want to spend the next couple of minutes just sharing how can we, the community, even if it's not every day, one day out of the week, one Saturday, whatever, how can we volunteer? And maybe if you could tell us some areas of volunteerism that you may have that may help us as well.
Thank you. Oh, there are so much that you can do, and you can do it at the pace that you're interested in. So, as you mentioned, it could be a day a week, it could be a day a month, it could be every day. So, some of the areas we're looking for, and I'll start with high-level leadership, is I'm trying to expand the diversity of my board so that we're speaking as a voice locally with the community voice. And so if there are leaders out there that would like to be a community voice that helps us understand how to integrate into culture, make sure we're not missing the beat, then talk to me about joining the board, and that would be reaching out to me directly.
Wow.
If there is someone who is interested in being what we call a blood donor ambassador, now you work with Blood Bank Delmarva, to me, if you're giving blood or working to save lives, you're saving lives. I speak for the state often as one blood in the country, and so whoever you help through. A blood donor ambassador for us is someone who works the registration table. And we have a new single donor platelet site on Route 202. Actually, our grand opening and press conference is tomorrow at 10:30.
Wow.
Very excited. And that's predominantly platelet focused. Somebody could volunteer to work the canteen, which is giving out the juice, the cookies, getting people to sit still for 15, 20 minutes after they donate, make sure they're safe, or to work the registration table, which in the time of COVID was checking temperatures. It still might be, but registering them in, making sure they've read the materials and that they're cleared to give. So those are simple ways, and you can volunteer at the time frame that the donor site is open. Then there is the disaster action team. And I mentioned that before. The disaster action team is someone who is willing to go out on a home fire. And it might be after the fire department has put the fire out. It might be while the fire is still burning. But regardless of the case, there's a family who needs you now. They need you now. So someone who's willing to leave their hot dinner behind because someone else doesn't have a kitchen to cook in, and say that I can help. And that happens every day. We have fires every day. So whatever time you can give, I'm sure we could use the hand for standby. There are so many. I have community volunteer leaders, and those are people who choose the community they wish to serve.
Okay.
And so I have someone who works with Newcastle County, someone who works with the Islamic Society. I have someone who focuses on Kent County, people who have 3 counties in Maryland. They're a little less populated. So those are individuals who are kind of me, but locally, that can speak one Red Cross to everybody. And they might be more familiar with the community they're serving. I have such a long list I had in my head when you said that of, well, how do I focus? We also have what we call high priority positions. And those are positions that need to be filled and need to be filled now for us to do mission critical work. And that would be something that when you go to apply, they're going to talk to you about your skills and see if they fit. And then, of course, there are people who deploy out. And that means you're willing to leave your home and your family for 2 to 3 weeks. And deployments are 14 to 21 days, depending on where we're going, and serve the community at large that is in the middle of a disaster. As the other examples would be, I work with elected officials. When I go out on deployments and locally, I work with our elected officials, because your official should be the person in the community that knows their community best.
Right.
And so if
Should
we're
be.
going to help a community, talk to the elected official that has been voted in by that community to serve them. And if you are one that is comfortable talking to elected officials, we can work with you on how that would look like during a disaster. That's usually also a community volunteer leader.
Right.
There are so many that I'm kind of getting lost.
No. But what I think you are able to do is to share. There is need for everyone
Everyone.
to volunteer.
Yes.
You didn't have to give the 4,742 different positions, but you went from the leadership, from the most simple task to to some of the leaders in the community, to even those that are the thinkers for the organization, by talking about your board. So I think that is very good. Now, how does a person apply or get get their information to you so they could say, okay, I'm interested in volunteering. My interests are blank, 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 but where will that information go?
So the easiest place to volunteer is, again, the website, and that's redcross.org. And you look for volunteer and then fill out the application.
Okay.
If you are directly opting to go level of leadership, that would be board. I'm going to give out my phone number.
Okay.
And my phone number is for people interested. I mean, I'm here for all of you. You are my community. For people who are specifically interested in board level or community level leadership, my number is 302 943-4150. Talk to me. We'll have an impromptu kind of interview, make sure it's a good match. And then this way, when you fill out the application, I know to look for your name and put you directly in the leadership track if that makes sense for you. But we want it to be a win-win.
All right.
And the requirements might be something you're uncomfortable with, or it might be something that you go, oh, I really wanted to get roll up my sleeves. And there's a difference between a thought leader, a strategic leader, and then the task doers. And we want to make sure that it's going to meet each individual where they would like it to be met.
Right. Now, for those, I have a lot of seniors who watch our show, who really appreciate what we do. They may not be computer savvy. How do they may still drive. As a matter of fact, the oldest member of our church is 97 and she still drives her own car and lives in her own house. But how do they connect with you if it's not on the internet?
Okay, so that's a wonderful, you are very good at this. Can you tell? I would say call 1-800-Red Cross.
Perfect.
And I would also like, for a fun fact, to say that most of our deployed are retired individuals.
Yes.
And many have, when they thought, oh, am I getting too old, which is a spiritual feeling and a body feeling, is when they go to their doctor after years says, hey, you want to go back to that volunteering? Because it turns out that it keeps the mind going and the
Yes.
body going.
Yes.
And so we have a lot of our seniors volunteering. We have 90-year-olds that come out
Amen.
and volunteer for 2 to 3 weeks.
Yes.
And then there are positions that are like headquarter based, so you don't have to be hauling and lifting all the time.
Yes.
We even have positions like warehouse people and
Okay.
delivery drivers and
Right.
runners for blood. Like if you get a call that you need a blood supply at a hospital, they're sitting at the blood donor center ready to shoot to the hospital with that need. So
Excellent.
anything and everything, 1-800-Red Cross or redcross.org.
See, there's room and opportunity for everyone, whether you are a seasoned citizen or a young, unexperienced citizen. There's always something else. But you said something about your brother,
Yes.
that I want to commend you and the Red Cross on. There's no discrimination, and I think that's critical when dealing with need. And you said, he's there to do what he can do, and he does it well. Now, when he needs support, you're there to support him. But for the most part, he's able to function on a volunteer level as well. So even for those who have some you're concerned that I'm disabled or whatever, and I may not be able to use. Let's have the conversation before you just say no. That is that fair for me to say?
Oh, more than fair. It's not just that we don't discriminate. We need diversity. That diversity is the health of the organization.
Yeah.
It also allows us to speak to the community with which we serve. I may not know the voice I need to deliver, but someone in the community does.
Absolutely. Thank you so very much. Well, we will give you an opportunity to share. You have been, first, let me just say, you have been remarkable. I enjoyed our conversation today. I'm sure that those who are watching us have gotten some better information about the American Red Cross. Again, I only thought of it as the disaster group. And when a disaster happens, there they come. But it's even though it's still a smaller scale disaster, you're there to help and to bring comfort and compassion. I think that's just awesome. But I'm going to give you an opportunity to share anything you would like to share. Maybe I forgot to share something, ask a question on, but it's in your hands now. Share whatever you want to share.
Oh, thank you. I think the most important thing to know about the American Red Cross is we are 90% volunteer. So while I get the privilege of having this wonderful position, and it is an honor, there are 5 paid employees on the entire peninsula. There are 400 volunteers. And so the volunteers are the lifeblood of this organization to alleviate human suffering. And if we don't take knowledge and stock of the ways that our volunteerism needs to change to meet the needs of those volunteering, then that would be difficult. So speak to us, talk to us. If we're a barrier, let us know. If you have questions, ask. It's so easy to focus on the negative of the world.
Yeah.
Focus on the positive. Ask the questions to find out if the negative are true, and focus on the positive and be that difference for someone else.
Excellent. Thank you so very much. Ms. Young, it has been a pleasure and a privilege of speaking with you, and this will not be the last time. We're going to talk offline at some point to see how we can connect our facility with your resources to help the community. But we're going to bring you back on as we are growing, as the organization is growing, as the volunteers are coming, so that we can be another voice to help you continue the mission of the Red Cross.
Thank you so much. This has been absolutely enjoyable for me.
Great. You have a great one, and God bless. All right.
If you would have told me even a year ago today that I was gonna need blood transfusions, I would have said you were crazy.
Ashley is funny. I know outside of the house she's quiet, but inside of the house she's loud. And as tough as she plays, she's very sensitive.
Basketball brings me a lot of joy. And, I think it's kind of just like my outlet. When stuff isn't going right, off the court, I'm kind of like in a bad funk. Playing basketball really, takes that away and makes me very happy.
The plane landed, she said, I really don't feel well. So we went on campus and picked her up. She gets a text that says, hey, it's not tonsillitis, I have mono. 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, I'm sleeping and I hear, Dad, like faintly. So I said, Ashley? And she said, yes. Where are you? In the bathroom. She woke up in the middle of the night to go use the bathroom, and she's so weak she can't get up off the toilet.
I'm usually someone that, gets extra work before or after practice, but I just didn't have the energy or mental capacity to come in before and get that extra work in. And so the doctors were, going crazy, asking me how I played in the Stanford game, and then just went on to tell me that I was gonna need blood transfusions.
You went from seeing your kid playing on national television on Friday and Wednesday, she can't walk. I don't know where we would be right now. The conversation would be different if she didn't get the transfusions. And it took 8 total transfusions, but it brought my baby back.
Once she got the transfusion to what she needed, she was back to Ashley and laughing and talking and, being silly, physically being able to do what she needs to do. It was literally like a light switch.
Just to be able to see my body go from point A to point B was a crazy experience. Going from sleeping, 16, 17 hours a day to being able to, go through an hour workout was just like, wow for me.
There needs to be blood in the blood banks. It saves lives. It doesn't just help lives, it literally saves lives.
It literally saved my life. If I hadn't had that blood that day, I'm not sure what would have happened. So I think just being able to literally save someone's life is a cool thing to do.
A cardiac emergency can happen anywhere. Be prepared with a simple technique known as compression-only CPR. You can learn it in minutes, it's easy to remember, and it can help save a life. If someone suddenly collapses, check the scene for safety. Then, check to see if the person responds to you using the shout, tap, shout technique. At the same time, check for breathing, life-threatening bleeding, or another life-threatening condition. Are you okay? Are you okay? If at any time you determine the person is experiencing a life-threatening emergency, call 911 and get the first aid kit and AED or tell someone to do so. Anna, call 911 and get the first aid kit and AED. Then, if they are unresponsive and not breathing or only gasping, begin compression-only CPR. First, ensure that the person is on their back on a firm, flat surface, such as the ground. If they are lying on a bed or couch, carefully move them to the floor. Next, kneel beside them like this with your knees near the person's body and spread about shoulder width apart. Place the heel of one hand in the center of their chest with your other hand on top. Now, interlace your fingers and make sure they are up off the chest. Then, position your body so that your shoulders are directly over your hands. Lock your elbows to keep your arms straight. This technique allows you to use your body weight to help compress the chest. You are now in the correct position to give compressions. When giving compressions, push hard and fast. Compress the chest to a depth of at least 2 inches and a rate of between 100 and 120 compressions per minute, or about 1 every half second. After each compression, let the chest return to its normal position. Watch as I demonstrate just a few chest compressions so you can see what they look like. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 and 6 and 7 and 8 and 9 and 10. Finally, keep going. Continue giving compressions until you notice an obvious sign of life, like breathing, an AED is ready, a trained responder is available to take over compressions, EMS personnel arrive and begin their care of the person, you are alone and too tired to continue, or the scene becomes unsafe. If you would like to learn how to give full CPR and use an AED, you can take an American Red Cross CPR AED course. Check out redcross.org for more information.
And we're back. What an outstanding opportunity we've just experienced with Miss Young. She certainly shared the heart of the American Red Cross. For those of us who really did not know to the magnitude of assistance that they provide for humanity, today we walk away with more knowledge, more understanding. Let it not be said, though, that we are just taking and not giving. It's important. We didn't talk about finances, but I think it's important that if you can donate financially as well, your blood is very much needed. Our blood, you heard her speak about African American blood is very important, especially for sickle cell, and we know that as a fact. So your blood is very important. Your volunteerism is very important. All of that equates to finances. But for those of you who just don't have the time because you're overwhelmed with life, you got so much going on, can I implore you to go to the Red Cross website? And I'm sure, she didn't say it, but I'm sure there's a donate button on there because it is a volunteer, pretty much driven organization. We can donate. If you can't, you're just overwhelmed because you're already giving to so much. You're already donating other places and not so much donating, but giving volunteer time. Please, let's make sure we make a difference. Our humanity matters. Bringing relief to them matters. And you never know when it's going to be you who's sitting in the seat of need. So why don't we make sure that we're investing now so that if ever we're at a moment where we need help, we'll be able to get it. What a great show today. I hope and trust that you've learned something. I hope and trust that you enjoyed it. Until the next time we get together, may the Lord God bless you real good.